My name's Beck. I'm a 21-year Army veteran. I joined the Army right out of high school. I was actually 17 when I joined. I tell people often I had a very fortunate Army career. I really do feel that way. My first unit was an aviation unit, an Apache attack helicopter unit. I actually did 5 deployments with that organization. So it was really fast and furious first 10 years. I feel like I grew up in the 101st as a young soldier. And that culture that I grew up in, it stayed with me throughout my whole career. Coming out of the Army, for me, brought up some things that I hadn't dealt with that happened prior to the Army. It's almost like, I'd been putting a lid on those things and just going on with my life as a soldier, but when that was over, those things are still there. It's still a very big reality shock. For me, from going active duty for over half my life at that point to nothing. Um, the silence was really hard. Certain amount of suffering that you do with other people creates a bond that you can't explain to those that weren't a part of it. And then, just the way that we do things in the Army, we give orders, we give directions, it's a very direct culture in a lot of the ways that we were able to communicate in the military aren't great communication styles for outside of the military. It was awkward for me to be able to try to express myself or for people to maybe understand why I was feeling the way that I was feeling. Um, but like I didn't know how to fit in outside of the Army. I had a lot going on internally that I didn't know how to manage. I didn't know how to deal with, and it was coming out as anger. And that's a really tough way to live for too long, just being angry every day. I wasn't happy. I just knew I wasn't the best version of myself. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to um, get back to good. I just remember I was very, very tired of the feelings I was having, and ready for some change, ready for some positive change. I had been looking around online for some type of I felt like I wanted to go on a retreat. And really what I needed was, I needed help. Fortunately for me, my wife is a social worker. So she's actually the one that taught me about the Cohen Clinic. But I actually reached out online on the Cohen's website. And then I received a phone call and they set me up an appointment, for an intake. So that was really great. That's always, I feel like for most, the hardest part is just getting started. The Cohen Clinic helped me understand that, maybe the way things are or or certain things that I'm going through is not forever. And also I have a say in it. You know what I mean? I have, my mind and my emotions and my mental capability to, combat certain things. I know that I can stay calm. I know the neural pathways in my brain don't have to stay beaten down the way that they were beaten down in the Army. I can form new paths. Um, yeah, so that was it. I felt like, I got the tools that I needed to just keep being just a mentally better person, a version of myself. Like I had the ability in me. I just needed somebody to help me figure it out. Gosh, when I came out of therapy, I was happy again. I was in such a bad place before that it was almost blinding me. If you get to that point where you're feeling helpless, angry, whatever, you need help. You can't live like that, you know. I can just attest to it by telling you it's not gonna last forever. Help's there, and it works.